So moving on from that, I wanted to talk a little bit about tenants because tenants are a real interesting situation. And of course, because I've been doing this so long, I have a tenant story for you. I had a rental property, a multifamily property in Richmond, Virginia, in a historic neighborhood called the Fan. And there was a big storm that came up the Chesapeake Bay, but it went the other way, went down the river toward Richmond, went inland, and caused a lot of damage in the city of Richmond, including it took out, did pretty good amount of damage to a wall in my house. I had a brick building, and there had been some changes, like many old buildings over the years, and there was one part of the building that was siding instead of solid brick. And that siding area failed, didn't fall down, but it leaked. And so I had a couple tenants that had contents that were damaged by the rainwater that blew in through the wall when the wall failed. And so the tenants actually came to me fully expecting that I was going to buy them a new couch. And I explained to them, and it's in my lease, I sent them a copy of their lease, and it said, we recommend you have coverage. The landlord is not responsible for your contents. So it was real interesting because they went from wanting a new couch to having the couch cleaned. And so what I did as a courtesy to the tenants is I gave the two tenants that were impacted, I gave each of them a $100 rent credit towards getting their couch professionally cleaned. But the point is that the tenants really don't understand when you say we're not paying for your couch, that they don't get it. So I know some of the apartment complexes in the greater Houston area have started requiring coverage where they've got it there, and it's like if you have your own coverage, you have to bring a certificate of insurance. If you don't, here it is, and they're actually administering the insurance. I don't know how good a product that is, but I don't necessarily advocate that for landlords, especially landlords with one or two units. That's not going to be a practical solution. But what I have done is on one of my properties is that we've partnered with a local insurance agent. So of course, that's a separately licensed service. They can't pay us any fees or kickbacks. That's all illegal. But it's very convenient though, because they know the property. So if someone calls up and says, hi, I've just rented at X location, the insurance agent and his staff can say, hey, we know the property, we've got codes set up, and it'll be $200 a year, or usually this insurance is not terribly expensive. Again, it does not protect in case of floods. It's fire and theft type coverage, but it can still be very helpful to people. And one of the other things I wanted to mention with regard to tenants is the utter importance of checking out your tenants. And I have learned through bitter experience as a person who, since I'm a broker, I administer my own properties most of the time, is that every time that we've done a favor for somebody who had a credit problem, we ended up getting burned pretty much. It was almost 100%. So people with good credit, good rental histories were great tenants, and we had very little headaches with them. On the other hand, we had people came to us and said, hi, I am a problem already, and my current landlord's not going to vouch for me. By golly, they were pretty much not great tenants, and they, again, as a pretty good negotiator and a pretty diligent landlord, I didn't get hurt too bad, but it sure does help to check out your tenants. So there are, a good rental management agency, one of the services they bring to a landlord is the ability to check out tenants. And unfortunately, the list is getting longer and longer because we're looking to make sure we're not renting to pedophiles, to criminals who have a recent record of causing property or personal injury, child molesters who are on the register, required to be on the register, and just all around bad people who don't pay their bills. And so checking out tenants is one of the single best ways of controlling risk for landlords, and like I said, most often that's well accomplished by using a rental management agency like Advantage Asset Management, of course. Unfortunately, there is a couple high-risk areas that we cannot insure well for. One of them is children. Children. I love my grandchildren, but the reality is that children represent a whole new level of risk. Many people who rent larger units and rent houses, the reason they're doing it is because they have children and pets, or both. Or they have pets that they treat like children. And so it's a lot of that going on out there. So one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that our properties are safe for children. We recently worked on a matter where a property had a pond in the backyard, a natural pond in the backyard. And in those cases, I recommend full disclosure, recommend fencing to control the area. Perhaps not, you can't legally restrict people from children, but to certainly say we don't regard this as the best property for somebody with children unless you have older children, because of the risk involved, and there's only so much risk we can control. But remember, I said earlier in the outline, getting rid of, in terms of making your property more rentable, not having a hot tub. And I rented a beautiful custom home, and I'm still renting it, and I had a beautiful hot tub on the deck, and we made an administrative decision and removed the hot tub at the time I rented the property, because I felt that the risk of having the hot tub on the property was too great, and just maintaining it. Hot tubs are a terrific item, but they're really an adult item. They're not a substitute for a swimming pool. And we had a few misadventures with it. The hot tub, just relatively close to renting the house out, said, you know what, it's just enough work, and that it's just not worth having it there. Might rent for a couple dollars a month more, but then you've always got that risk. Is someone going to, and adults die in hot tubs. Somebody gets in a hot tub and they have a heat problem or a heart attack or something, and it's not good. So those type of risk reductions, as much as people like pools, pools are even scarier. Sadly, I was watching the evening news just last night. It was discussion of a child drowning in a family swimming pool. And one of the things I thought about is that they do have swimming pool alarms now, and that if there's nobody in the pool, that this thing goes off like crazy, like a regular whole house burglar alarm, that if the water is disturbed, and it might be caused by dog jumping in or something, but at least there's some effort being made. Obviously, for larger properties, they are required to have the swimming pools. Regular apartment complexes, condominiums, are required to have the pools fenced off with a gate that cannot easily be opened by a young child. So these are, again, important risk control factors in terms of working with tenants.